LadyLucidity ASMR. Hello there, my lovelies, and welcome back to another craft video. Today I'm going to be making something which I've not done for a while. It's a little bit more on the expensive side of my budget, so I won't be doing this very often for videos, but as a special treat today, I thought I would show you how I create my geode pieces. You've probably seen these on Instagram, which is where I post most of my artwork pictures. The reason this is my more expensive makes is the materials. So first I have this circular canvas, which you don't really see that often in bigger sizes. I've also got some crushed glass. I've just got a sample here to show you. We're going to be using quite a bit of this in this make. And this is a cheaper alternative to crushed crystals, but still looks effective. I have my trusty mixing pot, and I'm going to be using this for pouring my acrylics, and a lot of these are the sets I got for Christmas. If you've seen my what I got for Christmas video, you'll have seen them on there. So this is the first time I'm using these. So the colour combination for this make today is a series of gold, blue and a bit of white. So a lot of these are brand new, so I'm having to take the top off first. Once I am happy with the colour, I'm then going to mix it, adding some water to thin it out. So using these two, and a little bit of this beautiful metallic blue. It should give me a really gorgeous metallic sheen. I don't know if you can see there, which just adds to the sort of crystal geode piece. Okay, so we're going to add some water. Just pop that to the side. Give it a good mix. So so it's a good consistency. I might add a tiny bit more water into that. Okay. Give it another mix. Much better. Okay. So now I'm going to pour it over my piece as my backdrop. And before I do that, I'm just going to draw my middle section where my crystal's going to go, and this will give me a guideline as to where to paint. So you probably can't see it too well on camera. It doesn't have to be neat, it's just a very rough outline in the middle, and I want to keep that section white, so I'm just masking it off. There we go. Okay, so now I've got my center part, if you can see that there. I can use that as the base for my painting. Okay, so everything is going to build around this, and you'll see it come together as we go through the video. Okay, so just make sure our paint mixture is completely blended. It's still not quite pouring texture, so a little bit more water again. There we go. So I'm just going to go around the outside, not being particularly neat at this stage. It's just to get the base coat on. Round we go. It is so satisfying pouring paint. I can see why lots of people do it. Okay. So to spread this out, I'm using a very wide brush. It's very similar to a foundation brush, and it gives me this really sleek finish. You'll see here that there's ridges and waves in the paint, and I want to try and keep these as much as possible. It really adds to the geode sort of layered effect that you get when you look at them. So I really want to keep that in, if possible. Another way you could achieve this look is by putting some thickening medium in your paint, or even a little bit of plaster mixed in to make it into a paste. That could be quite interesting. But for now we're just going to stick with our paint. And this is what I love about creating these crystal pieces, is that they're based on natural structures, so it doesn't have to be neat or precise, because nature is just beautiful irregularities. I think that's the best way to describe it. any excess paint, I'm just dragging around and then putting it back into my paint pot, and I won't waste it. It will come in use later. I don't like the idea of wasting paint. So just dragging the brush round, creating those grooves. You'll see them around the sides here. Just making sure to paint the sides, because this canvas is a thick one, it's not flat, so got to make sure you get those sides. And then I'm just neatening up this middle part here. And painting around those guidelines. Okay. So just drag it down here. Go. And finish off this last little bit here. So, next stage is I have some white acrylic mix again in a piping bag. I'm just going to cut the end off here, give it a test squeeze, make sure it comes out okay. And then this is going to be for our middle section. Okay, and again, it doesn't matter too much if it's not directly on the line, because we're going to blend all of this out. So I'm just filling this in. A little bit like icing a biscuit. Okay, just extend it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to add some to the side and fill that in. And I'm doing this while the backdrop is still wet, because as you'll see in a moment, when you drag the white through the blue, it makes this really nice effect. I find it's always best to start small and then expand outwards. If you start too big, it's more difficult to go back and make it smaller. So there we go. Okay, and then just drag this around. It's going to make this a really nice light blue. Move back to a bigger brush with my blue and drag it very slowly around. And if you wiggle your brush, it makes this really nice thin outline. And this is going to be your basic technique for building up your layers. So drag it around. This is also very satisfying to do. Okay. So this is what I'm going to be doing for pretty much most of my layers. A mixture of paint in piping bags and then sort of dragging them around. So I'm going to add a little bit more white in here, see if I can get some really good streaks coming through. Just like that. There we go. So you're really building up that texture and sort of interest. Just pull that round. Okay. Around we go. So with the excess paint from before, I'm going to first add some more definition back in and blend that middle part out a little bit. And then with what's left, I'm going to start mixing my other blues in with it, and you're basically just rinse and repeating the process. Okay, so dragging round. Smoothing that out a bit. Dragging it around. Giving it a wiggle as we go. Just add some more like interest. A bit more natural looking. So I'm just using the very, very edge here to do this. Okay, so you can see we're starting to slowly build everything up. This layer is completely dry now, so we can start to add our other colours. And if there's a layer you're not happy with, you can just let it dry and paint over it, which is the beauty of this project. So here is my Pebeo Gold. It's the most gorgeous colour. And I've mixed up some teal blue in another piping bag. So just get you into position before I cut my piping bag. And as an extra bit of sparkle to make it special, I have some gold leaf, which I'll be putting around it later. So first we're going to start with our sort of teal greeny blue. I don't know if you guys can hear the wind outside. It is super windy today. In fact, I might have to go outside later and check on my painting tent to see if it's fallen over. So I'm just squeezing it out, and then I'm going to just spread it out slightly with my thick brush. Just give it a helping hand. Okay. So I know what you're thinking. It looks a little bit rough around the edges, but you have to trust the process. It does look a lot different once you've finished. Okay, so next we've got our gold, which I'm going to put around this outer edge here. Look at that, just buttery smooth, I love it. Lovely. So I'm going to let these bits dry a bit more, and we're going to start adding our gold leaf and our extra layers. So by the end I'll probably have about sort of 20 different layers. So I'm just going to show you guys this little part here where I used my angled brush to do some thinner lines. While that's drying, so you can always work on different parts while the first bit is drying. And this teal colour just blended perfectly in with the colours I wanted to use. At the moment it kind of reminds me of an iceberg in the middle of the ocean. But as I said, it will come together. So my next stage is to use some craft glue, and I'm going to pop it around our white area. So being very, very liberal with it, just a good thick layer around. Want to make sure it sticks, and because it's a craft glue it will dry clear, so I don't have to worry about it being white. And this is the very delicate part where you need a steady hand and a lot of patience when using gold leaf. It is super, super, super delicate and not the easiest thing to handle, so if you are recreating this at home, go very slowly. It will tear off very easily and it will try and stick to you, so just beware when using it. So to start, I'm just putting a very, very basic line around, and then to neaten it up, to get it where I want it, I will use a dry brush. So I've got a completely dried paintbrush, and I'm just going to carefully neaten these edges. Just push them in a little, give them a prod, and this is to make it look more like transformation like. Make it look more natural. I'm not sure what the word is, but you get the idea. It looks more like natural gold. So just push in some crevices and some little divots here and there. Much better. There we go. And then you can start to give it some character by adding extra pieces like I have around here. So I'm going to show you guys how I did my side part. I actually used nearly whole sheets of this. Very lightly just push them onto there. Okay. Make sure they've got a foothold on the glue. I just think the gold leaf makes it extra special, gives it more dimension and just sparkle, which you guys know I love. Okay, so I'm just dragging out some little bits there. It makes it appear like it's formed naturally, even though it's just a painting. Okay. Just try and push those down as delicately as I can without getting too much glue on my brush. And I'm going to have it form over the sides of my canvas. Okay. Just on the side here. So after doing my gold leaf, I did end up retouching it once it had dried with a little bit of gold paint around the edges. Not too much, but okay, so I'm just going to scrunch up some extra pieces to put on the sides. So once I'd left that to dry, this is how it looked. I decided to merge the blue and the gold together for one of my layers, as I wasn't entirely happy with it. So I left it to dry, which means I can now add more to it. But first we're going to add our crystals. Well, our crushed glass. But look at that. You can't tell me that doesn't look like crystals, right? So I have a very, very thick layer of glue on here for this. So I got a bag of, I think it was 500 grams of this crushed glass on Amazon, if you're looking for some yourself. It does come in a variety of colours, but for this piece I decided to go with just clear. And I want to put as much as I can into that middle there. Really want it chock full. So I'm just going to keep building up my layers. So this is how it's starting to look, and you can see that I've added some more paint in the middle. I really wanted a starker contrast, so I went for a dark blue, and then to finish doing my geode lines, I'm using a Posca paint pen. This one is in ivory rather than white, because I want it to be a little bit more subtle, not just blinding white. I think that would be too stark for this project. I'm going to try my best to hold it up so you guys can see the crystals, but they are still drying. So I'm going to leave this to dry now completely for a good 2 or 3 days, and once it's completely dry I will be ordering myself some resin to put a gloss coat over the top. So this has been one of my more expensive pieces, I would say. The gold leaf, the resin, the crystals, all that sort of thing combined is not cheap, but I think it produces a really beautiful result. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.